Mason Engstrom is the vice president on premise for Ole Smoky Moonshine, and his position is globally. He started his career in the beer business, and then he got religion and came over to the spirit side, so welcome. He spent 3 years at Diageo, working on national accounts on premise, and had the same role at Sky Spirits. Ole Smoky is the leading distiller of premium moonshine in the U.S. and the first federally licensed distillery in the history of East Tennessee. The company's roots can be traced back hundreds of years, but it wasn't until this brand came along that the category of moonshine suddenly began to flourish and come into its own.
I always want to start with what is moonshine, because that's the first question I always seem to get asked everywhere I go. There's no legal definition of moonshine, much less most other categories. So it's a fairly generic term. It means an illegally produced spirit, generally made in the backwoods in Appalachia, corn-based, copper pot stills, so forth and so on. So you might ask, well, how can we be selling it legally then? Well, we're using the same recipes and the same things that, and making it in the same traditional ways that were made hundreds of years ago. Now we're paying taxes on it, making it legal. How Ole Smoky started, basically it was 3 guys in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, that had a history of moonshining in their family. They had started petitioning the government of Tennessee to get to be able to open up a new distillery, which had not happened since Prohibition in the state of Tennessee. They eventually were successful. They opened up Ole Smoky Moonshine Distillery in downtown Gatlinburg, Tennessee. If you've never been to Gatlinburg, it was a lot to do with how we became successful and why we're probably still around and successful today. It was the fact that Gatlinburg, Tennessee is a huge tourist destination, which a lot of people don't understand. It's a small town in the middle of the Smoky Mountains, but it's the entrance to Smoky Mountain National Park. There's 10 million people come through to come into the national park every year. They have to go through Gatlinburg. They have to come through downtown Gatlinburg, which is where our original distillery was located. We'd offered free moonshine samplings, live music, had t-shirts and hats for sale, things like that. Over the years, we've now become the most visited distillery in the country, and quite frankly, it's not official yet, but most visited distillery in the world. I'll admit, most of that is due to where we're located, foot traffic coming in, free to enter, free to do a walking tour. Up until recently, free moonshine samplings. The law just changed, now we have to people have to pay $5 for a moonshine sampling, but then they get a $5 coupon in our retail shop so they can do whatever they do. I'll get into it a little bit here too, but another aspect of our success was the fact that we weren't just a distillery, we were a retail location as well. So we were selling jars of moonshine straight from the distillery, we were sampling moonshine, but we're also selling hats and t-shirts and moonshine salsa and moonshine everything you can possibly think of, and it just created a buzz around moonshine in general. We're now sold in not only all 50 states, but we're in quite a few international markets, and actually taken off very nicely in some places like Canada and some certain countries in Europe now. Like I was saying, this is, I think, a lot of the reason, or one of the main reasons that led to a lot of our success was where we were located. One, we were in a very historical place to make moonshine, so it was definitely an authentic place to be based out of, with real moonshiners. And if you ever come to our facilities, you'll see that our distillers are the guys, they look the way you'd expect them to look. These were not scientists by any means. These were guys that were doing this on their own in the woods. They had were related to a family that started it in some way, shape, or form. We knew about them, we brought them in, so we were making very authentic moonshine. But also being where we're located, we were in a day's drive over half the population of the United States. Once again, Gatlinburg being this huge tourist destination, people can drive there in a day, lots of family vacations. Word of mouth got out about us very, very quickly. So people would come to Gatlinburg, they'd sample some moonshine, they'd maybe bring a couple jars home, they'd have a party, sample people, their friends and people. So it just kind of a very grassroots way it got out around the country. When we were first expanding outside of Tennessee, we had distributors coming to us wanting to sell our products. So it was a lot opposite of how that normally works, where you're out banging on doors trying to get distribution. We had distributors asking to sell our products. So we got out in all 50 states very quickly. These are our 4 distilleries that we now have. So the original one we call the Holler is up in the top left. Once again, Gatlinburg is a walking town. You just walk around and do touristy things, and people walk into our distillery and hang out and listen to music and sample moonshine. A few years after that, That was 2010 when we got that up and running. And then in 2014, just down the road in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, which is another very touristy town just down the highway, we opened up another moonshine distillery. Once again, lots of live music. That's a very recent picture of a concert that we had going on there. And it brings people in. So the live music brings people in. Like I said, they do these easy samplings. They'll sample 12 or 13 different kinds of moonshine. Almost everybody ends up bringing a jar home, or 6 or 8 or 12, or whatever. Then in 2016, we purchased an existing small whiskey distillery that was called Davy Crockett Whiskey that was only sold in Tennessee, and rebranded it and made it Ole Smoky, and we actually started aging some product there, and we now have some aged whiskey, so some aged moonshine basically. And then our Nashville location just actually opened up just a few weeks ago, and that is a total integration of a distillery. We partnered with a brewery. We have a bar area, so you can purchase cocktails, there's live music, and then there's a retail area to that side as well, downtown Nashville. So the reason I bring all this up is this was kind of our competitive advantage, how we kind of ended up taking over moonshine in general and creating a category around it. People became familiar with us while they're on vacation, while they're having a good time, very easy access to things, keeping things very simple, keeping things very authentic. This is, traditional channels everybody knows, off-premise, on-premise. How we've gained success quickly there, I'll be honest, was chains. We had some very quick chain mandates both in the off-premise and on-premise. So Walmart put us in almost like very, very quickly before we were even in all 50 states. We had to scramble to get distribution. Buffalo Wild Wings in the on-premise, Outback Steakhouse, places like this. They brought us in, you remember probably, now we're talking 2013, 2014, there was kind of a moonshine fad, for lack of a better word. There was moonshine TV shows out there. There was a couple movies that came out about moonshine. It was kind of a trendy thing. Luckily enough, we were at a point in time where we could provide that for the country, so we could provide these chains where other moonshine companies probably weren't quite ready to do that. They didn't have the distribution set up to do that quite yet. So that allowed us to get in front of everybody else. And like I said, to get national distribution very quick. When a chain says, we want your product, you need to get it in all 50 states, well, you work to do that. Now, I think of what's kind of led to Ole Smoky taking over the moonshine category is the fact that, once again, product premise and e-commerce are things that we've really adopted. So product premise meaning our distilleries. We didn't make them distilleries where it's just a traditional distillery. You take a walking tour and maybe have a sample and take a t-shirt, go home. These are places where you go hang out. People go on vacation to go to our distilleries because they're fun, they're interactive, they can learn a lot, they can have a good time, they can hang out. And then more recently, obviously, we've gotten involved with e-commerce, partnering with Reserve Bar and some of these other online places. So kind of they can fill the gaps of our distribution. So if somebody can't get us at their local liquor store, they now know that they can order us in and have it sent in. And this is kind of just going on the retail thing again. Once again, vacation memories, product repeat purchases, awareness, product trial, is huge for us. There's so many misconceptions about moonshine out there. The more that we can sample people and educate people on they're not going to go blind if you drink it, and things like that, the better for us. And getting rid of all the stereotypes out there that moonshine has to be harsh and it has to be nasty and it has to be this. I spent a lot of time educating people that no, it can taste good and still be moonshine, and made in a very traditional way. Once again, we're a very authentic brand, but with bringing kind of traditional ways of selling and some newer ways of selling, we've been able to do very well. And now, thankfully, when you generally walk into a liquor store, there is a moonshine section. Hopefully that is dominated by Ole Smoky for the most part, but that was something that we spent a lot of time doing, whereas initially when we're going out to liquor stores and grocery stores, they're like, fine, we'll bring it in, but where am I supposed to put this? Do I put this with the whiskey? Do I put it with the liqueurs? Where am I supposed to put this? So convincing a lot of these liquor chains and liquor stores to actually create a moonshine category for their stores helped tremendously, that people know where to find it when they walk in the store. If they're trying to find a moonshine, they know exactly where they can find it and ask for it. They don't have to search all over the place. That's what all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.